Brené Brown, Dare to Lead, Brave Work. Tough Conversations. Whole Hearts. In a Dare to Lead, Brave Work. Tough Conversations. Whole Hearts, Brené Brown explores the vital role of vulnerability, honesty, and courage in leadership. The book delves into the necessity of vulnerability for true courage and meaningful innovation. Additionally, it emphasizes the importance of clear communication, embracing one's core values, and building trust through the Braving acronym. By shedding perfectionism and developing resilience, leaders can thrive in difficult situations and nurture a daring and collaborative work environment.
Embracing vulnerability for growth. Vulnerability, often mistaken as a weakness, is a universal human emotion experienced in times of risk or uncertainty. In reality, vulnerability is not connected to weakness but serves as the foundation for courage, innovation, and creativity. Embracing vulnerability is essential for growth and progress, as it allows individuals to take risks, face failure, and ultimately transform into dreamers, thinkers, and creators. What makes you feel vulnerable? Researcher Brené Brown has asked this question of countless individuals, receiving answers ranging from a first date after a divorce to launching a first business or dealing with job loss. Despite vulnerability being a shared human emotion, people often misunderstand its true nature and categorize it as a weakness. It's true that feeling vulnerable can bring about anxiety, uncertainty, and a desire for self-protection. However, there is no evidence to suggest that vulnerability is inherently linked to weakness. Contrarily, acts of courage are unattainable without first stepping into a vulnerable position. For instance, Brown spoke to a group of Special Forces military personnel in 2014, describing vulnerability as the emotion felt during times of risk and uncertainty. She then asked the soldiers if they had ever witnessed or engaged in an act of courage that did not involve vulnerability. Not one soldier could provide an example. Once they considered their own acts of bravery, the misconception of vulnerability equating to weakness quickly dwindled. Vulnerability's importance extends beyond courage, it's fundamental to human innovation and creativity. Creativity is an unpredictable and uncertain process, requiring the ability to fail multiple times before achieving success. To be creative, one must embrace vulnerability and the risk of failure. Societies that mistakenly link vulnerability to weakness discourage people from attempting to innovate, preventing the development of original ideas and perspectives. Amy Poehler, a Golden Globe-winning actress and writer, emphasizes the difficulty in allowing oneself to be vulnerable. However, those who can embrace vulnerability are often the most influential dreamers, thinkers, and creators in society. Recognizing the significance and power of vulnerability in personal and societal contexts is crucial for fostering growth and transformation. Embrace clarity and honesty. Open and honest communication is crucial in both personal and professional settings. Many of us avoid confronting the truth in conversations because it makes us uncomfortable. However, being genuinely clear and honest demonstrates kindness and paves the way for productivity. Great leaders encourage openness by dedicating time to understand their subordinates' feelings and fears, and by actively listening to their concerns. Doing so can prevent unproductive behaviors and foster lasting, meaningful connections. Brené Brown, who started her own company, was taken aback when her employees expressed their concerns about her time management skills and unrealistic deadlines. This feedback was difficult for her to process initially, but she realized that they were being kind by being clear. This concept is important to remember, as clear and honest communication is an essential practice for all leaders. Yet, how many of us truly follow through with this? Studies reveal that most people avoid having candid communication, believing that half-truths or sugarcoating are the kinder options. Truthfully, avoiding difficult or confrontational conversations is primarily because it makes us uneasy. In the long run, clear communication is much kinder and leads to increased productivity. If, as a leader, you don't clarify your expectations, you could end up unfairly blaming employees for their failures, further down the road. In addition to honesty, promoting openness is a critical aspect of communication. Brené Brown's extensive research on leadership has shown that understanding and addressing employees' feelings and fears is vital. Leaders who neglect this aspect can expect to face unproductive and ineffective behavior within their workforce. But, fostering openness requires more than just asking questions. Leaders must actively listen, intensely focus on listening, to the responses. When asking about people's true feelings, provide ample space and allow pauses for them to answer. Embrace those uncomfortable silences and trust that the other person will eventually fill the quiet with their sincere thoughts. As they speak, avoid formulating responses immediately. Instead, dedicate your attention to truly understanding their concerns. Appreciating the kindness in their clarity will enable you to return the favor by genuinely listening to them. By embracing clarity, honesty, and active listening, you can create an environment that fosters productivity, growth, and lasting connections. Unleash your daring leadership. The secret to thriving in a high-pressure workplace lies in identifying and embracing your core values. Recognizing these values acts like a North Star, guiding one through uncertain times and supporting risk-taking without sacrificing integrity. To unlock the daring leader within, focus on narrowing down your values to 2 actionable core principles, as having too many can result in unfocused decisions and diluted impact. In today's highly competitive professional world, the pressure can be utterly overwhelming. Rather than retreating, we can find strength and resilience by embracing our core values, those principles that truly matter to us. Courageous leaders, as discovered by Brené Brown, are the ones who deeply understand their values and use them as guiding lights during moments of vulnerability and uncertainty. This approach enables them to take risks, knowing their values will keep them true to themselves while allowing them to grow as daring leaders. The first step in harnessing your inner daring leader is to pinpoint your key values. It can be tempting to compile a long list, but the goal is to identify only 2 core principles capable of truly guiding your behavior. Brené Brown, for instance, chose courage and faith as her beacons. Through her research, she learned that leaders who were most open to vulnerability and showed the greatest courage grounded themselves in no more than 2 values. Selecting just 2 enables those values to drive your actions, providing a solid foundation when making important decisions, especially in difficult times. Having too many values leads to a watered-down influence. It becomes nearly impossible to let those principles genuinely dictate your actions. Rather than a lengthy list of feel-good words, select a pair of powerful values that represent your most essential beliefs. Allow these values to light the path to daring leadership, guiding you as you navigate your professional journey, face challenges, and ultimately thrive. Building trust with Braving. Trust is essential for forming strong relationships and succeeding as a leader. Researchers led by Brené Brown identified 7 behaviors that encourage trust, which can be remembered with the acronym Braving: boundaries, reliability, accountability, vault, integrity, non-judgment, and generosity. By implementing these behaviors, we can foster trust in ourselves and others. How trustworthy do you consider yourself? And how many people do you truly trust? It's interesting how we often see ourselves as completely trustworthy, while only having a small circle of trust for others. To improve our trust in others and become a successful leader, we need to understand the components of trust. Brené Brown and her team explored the nature of trust and identified 7 key behaviors that inspire it. These behaviors create the acronym Braving. B is for boundaries. Respecting others' boundaries is crucial for building trust. If you or someone else is uncertain about boundaries, discuss whether a specific action is acceptable or not. R represents reliability. To be reliable, we must follow through on our promises. This involves being aware of our capabilities and limitations, ensuring we don't overpromise and underdeliver on commitments. A stands for accountability. Admitting our mistakes, apologizing for them, and trying our best to make amends are vital aspects of fostering trust. V corresponds to vault. Envision yourself as a vault holding the information others have shared with you. Trust requires not sharing confidential information and respecting others' privacy. I is for integrity. Integrity involves selecting courage over comfort and doing what is right instead of what is easy or convenient. We must also practice the values we advocate. N signifies non-judgment. To build trust, people should feel comfortable sharing their true feelings or asking for help without fearing judgment. Lastly, G refers to generosity. Consistently interpreting the words, actions, and intentions of others in a generous manner helps establish trust. People are more likely to trust us if they know we see the best in them, rather than the worst. To foster trust and become a more successful leader, remember the Braving acronym and actively practice the behaviors it represents. By doing so, we can strengthen the trust in ourselves and others. Skydiving wisdom for business. Just like skydivers diligently train for safe landings, business leaders must learn and practice the art of resilience. Preparing for potential failures and fostering a culture that embraces daring behavior, while expecting occasional setbacks, encourages progress and growth. Instead of waiting for a crisis, companies should incorporate resilience training early on, ensuring that their leaders face tribulations confidently and recover swiftly. Skydivers are a courageous lot, willingly jumping off planes and hurtling towards the ground. Yet, they don't do so without careful preparation. Numerous training sessions teach them how to safely hit the ground. Business leaders can glean valuable insights from these skydivers, chiefly the importance of being well prepared for bumpy landings by nurturing resilience. In the business world, resilience is indeed recognized as a critical skill. Unfortunately, it is usually imparted after a failure or crisis occurs, akin to instructing novice skydivers on the right landing technique after they've already hit the ground or when they're already free-falling. This reactive approach is far from ideal. Research indicates that integrating resilience training into a more comprehensive program early on significantly enhances leaders' likelihood of exhibiting brave behavior, as it builds their confidence in getting back up should things go awry. Organizations might hesitate to teach leaders about handling failure, fearing a culture of low expectations. However, the opposite holds true. Best-selling author Brené Brown inculcates her own company's new recruits with lessons on failing and resilience during the onboarding process. This approach conveys to newcomers the expectation of being brave and the acceptance of occasional failures. The emphasis on resilience is not a novelty. Catchy slogans like "fall forward" and "fail fast" are oft repeated in the corporate world. But without a well-structured resilience skills program to back them up, these phrases do more harm than good. In the absence of adequate resilience training, leaders experiencing failure face a double dose of shame, the initial embarrassment of failing, followed by the disappointment of struggling to recover despite all the encouraging statements to learn and move forward. In conclusion, the wisdom of skydivers and their dedication to training for bumpy landings offer valuable lessons for businesses. Companies should proactively establish a culture that embraces courage, resilience, and learning from failure, incorporating timely resilience training programs for their leadership. As leaders become more confident in facing the risks and recovering from setbacks, organizations can foster growth and progress toward greater success. Escaping perfectionism's trap. From an early age, we construct barriers to protect ourselves from vulnerability. One of the most common and destructive forms of self-protection is perfectionism, a trait that can hinder personal development and leadership potential. Perfectionism is not about self-improvement, rather, it stems from a need for approval and validation. This pursuit of perfection can lead to addiction, depression, anxiety, and missed opportunities. To become daring leaders, we must let go of perfectionism and embrace vulnerability, accepting the possibility of mistakes while pursuing growth and success. Throughout our lives, we instinctively develop defenses to shield ourselves from the vulnerability of feeling diminished or disappointed. These emotional safeguards, however, can hinder our ability to truly embrace vulnerability, an essential aspect of courageous living and leadership. One such defense is the pervasive and detrimental mindset of perfectionism. Far from being a pursuit of excellence, perfectionism is a desperate attempt to win the validation and approval of others. This mindset often originates in childhood, where accolades for exceptional performance in sports, academics, and other activities lead to an unhealthy reliance on accomplishments as a measure of self-worth. This behavior pattern locks perfectionists in a relentless cycle of people-pleasing, tirelessly perfecting their efforts, and performing for others in an exhausting quest for validation. In contrast, those driven by a healthy ambition for success are motivated by self-improvement and growth, asking themselves, "How can I improve?" rather than worrying about others' opinions. Perfectionism's insidious consequences go beyond an obsession with validation, as research has linked this mentality to addiction, depression, anxiety, and mental paralysis. Fearful of failure or criticism, perfectionists often hesitate to engage with life's challenges and opportunities, missing out on the joys of competition and personal growth. To tap into our full potential as daring leaders, we must dismantle the armor of perfectionism and enter the chaotic, imperfect, but ultimately fulfilling arena of life. While we may stumble and err in our attempts, relinquishing our fixation on perfection allows us to cultivate true courage and step into our roles as effective, empowered leaders.
To sum up, Dare to Lead encourages leaders to embrace vulnerability as a powerful catalyst for courage and innovation. Doing so will foster clear communication and help develop trust through the Braving framework. By acknowledging and aligning with core values, leaders can remain resilient during challenging times and commit to growth rather than perfection. As a result, embracing these principles enables leaders to create thriving, supportive work environments where risks are taken, creativity flourishes, and courage is rewarded.